The West African regional bloc ECOWAS is struggling to dissuade three junta-led states, Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali, from withdrawing from the nearly 50-year-old alliance. After sanctions, threats, and warnings failed to contain military takeovers, ECOWAS has now shifted its strategy. In fact, it seeks dialogue with the three countries and says it would lift sanctions on all of them. The question, though, remains, can the bloc contain the crisis in West Africa? Here's our report with the latest.
West Africa has remained on the edge following a series of political crises that rocked the region. In recent years, it has been on the cusp of military coups. Since 2020, there have been 6 successful and 2 attempted coups in West Africa. 4 of these were members of the Economic Community of West African States, or the ECOWAS: Niger, Guinea, Mali, and Burkina Faso. In response, the pro-West bloc imposed sanctions on these countries, asking them to return to power to civilian governments. It even suspended them from membership of the bloc. But the military junta in these countries remained unfazed. Neither the sanctions nor threats and requests worked. So now ECOWAS has been forced to make a U-turn.
We face in our sub-region demand that we take difficult but courageous decisions that put the plight of our people at the center of our deliberations. Democracy is nothing more than the political framework and the path to addressing the basic needs and aspiration of the people. This is why we must re-examine our current approach to the quest for constitutional order.
The bloc is turning to diplomacy and negotiations once again. For this, it has eased sanctions on Guinea, Mali, and Niger. For Guinea, the bloc has lifted financial and economic sanctions. For Mali, it has ended restrictions on recruitment of Malians to professional positions within ECOWAS. Economic and financial sanctions for Mali were lifted in 2022 after the military announced a timetable for a transition back to civilian rule. For Niger, a no-fly zone, border closures and asset freezes were among the measures lifted. The bloc said the lifting of sanctions was purely on humanitarian grounds.
Closure of land and air borders between ECOWAS countries and Niger to be lifted. No-fly zone of all commercial flights to and from Niger is to be lifted. Suspension of all commercial and financial transactions between ECOWAS member states and Niger is to be lifted.
The ECOWAS move signals a desire to renew dialogue with military regimes among its members after Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso announced their intention to leave the bloc. The 3 countries formed an alliance, severed ties with traditional security partner France, and forged closer relations with Russia, which is seeking greater influence in the region. But ECOWAS wants them to rethink withdrawal from the nearly 50-year-old alliance.
On the withdrawal of the 3 countries, the authority takes note of the notifications by the 3 member states within the context of Article 91 of the 1993 ECOWAS Revised Treaty, and further urges the countries to reconsider the decision in view of the benefits that the ECOWAS member states and their citizens enjoy in the community. The authority further urges the 3 member states to resort dialogue, negotiations, and mediation to address their concerns. The authority urges the 3 member states to adhere to the provisions of the 1993 Revised Treaty relating to withdrawal, particularly Article 91.
Their planned exit would not just undermine regional integration efforts, but also bring in trade and services disruptions worth nearly $150 billion a year. Rising insecurity could erase West Africa's development gains. This instability can be a contagion that threatens to disrupt peace in other countries of the region too. Like Senegal, one of the larger economic ECOWAS countries, which is facing a political crisis. After nationwide protests, clashes, its President Macky Sall agreed to step down but still has not set a date for fresh elections. While West Africa has had a history of instability, experts say ECOWAS is falling short in addressing challenges to democracy and governance. The question is democracy dying in Africa?
From impeachments to inaugurations, if it's a political story, we are on the scene. The race for the White House is heating up.
We're beating Biden.
How dare he say that?
If it's breaking news, we're live with the latest coverage. From the White House, the State Department, and Capitol Hill, we know the issues, but above all, we know the players to bring you the latest in-depth analysis on all the key stories that we're covering. I'm Eric Ham. Join me from Washington here on Firstpost America.